Join me as I dive into the creepiest basement horror stories that are sure to haunt my nightmares. Can I handle the chills? Basements, the ultimate symbol of fear, dread, and uncertainty. What is it about these damp, dark spaces that evoke such primal terror within us? In this video, I'll be sharing 3 spine-tingling tales that'll make you question the wisdom of venturing into those dimly lit corners of your home. Basements have a way of isolating us, severing us from the comfort and safety of the world above. The darkness seems to swallow us whole, making us acutely aware of our own mortality. It's no wonder that basements have become the stuff of nightmares, the perfect breeding ground for our deepest fears. The unknown is perhaps the greatest fear of all, and basements are full of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Every creak of the wooden floorboards, every groan of the rusty pipes, every flicker of the dim light bulb seems to hint at the presence of something sinister, something just out of sight. But what happens when the unknown becomes all too real? When the darkness is pierced by the faint whisper of a ghostly presence, or the rusty pipes begin to rattle with a malevolent intensity. That's when the true horror begins, and that's what we'll be exploring in the 3 terrifying tales that follow. Story number 1 takes us to the small town of Willow Creek, where a family's dream home quickly turned into a living nightmare. It was an old Victorian house, complete with a labyrinthine basement that seemed to stretch on forever. At first, the kids were thrilled to explore the musty rooms, but it wasn't long before they stumbled upon something that would change their lives forever. As they delved deeper into the basement, they began to notice strange symbols etched into the walls, symbols that seemed to pulse with a strange, otherworldly energy. It was as if the house itself was watching them, waiting for them to uncover its darkest secrets. And then, there were the noises, the creaks, the groans, the faint whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. The family tried to brush it off as mere paranoia, but they knew deep down that something was amiss. It wasn't until they stumbled upon the hidden room, concealed behind a tattered curtain, that the true horror revealed itself. Inside, they found ancient artifacts, strange relics that seemed to hold the key to the house's dark past. Story number 2 takes us to the midst of a sweltering summer, when a group of friends decided to explore the abandoned basement of their local library. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, and the only sound was the soft hum of the old fluorescents. But as they delved deeper into the depths of the basement, they began to uncover a dark history that would haunt them for years to come. It started with strange noises, whispers, creaks, and groans that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. At first, they dismissed it as mere paranoia, but it wasn't long before they stumbled upon the first body. Then the second. And the third. It was as if the basement was a graveyard, a tomb for the forgotten and the damned. The friends were frozen in terror, unsure of what to do next. But they knew they had to get out, had to escape the clutches of the malevolent force that lurked in the shadows. And that's when they saw it, the figure, tall and imposing, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly intensity. Story number 3 takes us to the small town of Ravenswood, where a young couple had just moved into their dream home. It was an old colonial house, complete with a sprawling basement that seemed to stretch on forever. But it wasn't long before they began to experience strange occurrences, doors creaking open, lights flickering, and the faint scent of something burning. At first, they dismissed it as mere paranoia, but it wasn't long before they stumbled upon the hidden room, concealed behind a tattered curtain. Inside, they found ancient artifacts, strange relics that seemed to hold the key to the house's dark past. And that's when they saw it, the figure, tall and imposing, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly intensity. The couple knew they had to get out, had to escape the clutches of the malevolent force that lurked in the shadows. But it was too late. The basement had them in its grip, and it wouldn't let go. Each of these stories has its own unique brand of terror, its own way of tapping into our deepest, darkest fears. Whether it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of isolation, or the fear of the supernatural, these tales are guaranteed to send shivers down your spine. Basements have a way of getting under our skin, of tapping into our deepest fears and desires. They're the perfect breeding ground for horror, the ultimate symbol of our own mortality. And that's why these 3 tales will haunt your nightmares, lingering in the shadows of your mind like a ghostly presence. If you have your own basement horror story, I want to hear it. Share it with me in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Join me as I dive into 3 terrifying basement horror stories that are so scary, I dare you to watch them alone. Today, I'm going to share 3 spine-tingling basement horror stories that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seats. Basements have always been a source of unease for many of us. There's something about the darkness, the musty smell, and the creaking sounds that can send shivers down our spines. But what makes basements so inherently creepy? Is it the fact that they're often hidden from view, concealing secrets and mysteries that we can only imagine? Or is it the sense of vulnerability that comes with being in a confined, underground space? One of the most fascinating aspects of basement horror stories is the way they tap into our deep-seated fears of the unknown. We've all heard the creaks and groans of an old house, and our minds immediately start racing with worst-case scenarios. It's this uncertainty that makes basement horror stories so compelling and so terrifying. Basements also have a way of amplifying our fears, making us feel trapped and helpless. Whether it's the dim lighting, the narrow corridors, or the sense of being cut off from the outside world, basements have a way of heightening our anxiety and making us feel like we're walking on eggshells. But enough about the psychology behind basement horror stories, let's dive into the 3 terrifying tales that I've got in store for you tonight. From creepy crawl spaces to sinister secret rooms, these stories are sure to send chills down your spine. Our first story takes us to a small town in the Midwest, where a family discovers a hidden room in their basement that's been locked away for decades. As they explore the room, they begin to uncover clues that suggest it was once used for some kind of twisted ritual. But what they find next will leave you speechless. Story number 2 takes us to a crumbling old mansion, where a group of friends discovers a hidden basement that's been sealed off for years. As they explore the depths of the basement, they stumble upon a series of cryptic messages that seem to point to an unsolved murder. But what they find in the basement's darkest corner will haunt their dreams forever. Our third and final story takes us to a small apartment complex, where a young woman discovers a mysterious symbol etched into the walls of her basement. As she delves deeper into the mystery, she uncovers a dark history of ritual sacrifices and supernatural occurrences. But what she finds in the basement's crawl space will make you question everything you thought you knew about reality. One of the most terrifying moments from our first story is when the family discovers a series of cryptic symbols etched into the walls of the hidden room. As they try to decipher the meaning behind the symbols, they begin to realize that they're not alone in the house. And what they find next will leave you on the edge of your seat. In our second story, one of the most chilling moments is when the group of friends discovers a series of old photographs hidden away in the basement. As they flip through the photos, they begin to realize that they're staring at the faces of people who've been dead for decades. But it's what they find in the background of the photos that will send chills down your spine. In our third story, one of the most heart-stopping moments is when the young woman discovers a hidden journal belonging to the apartment complex's former owner. As she reads through the journal, she uncovers a dark history of occult rituals and supernatural occurrences. But what she finds on the final page will make your blood run cold. As we recap the chilling elements of each story, it's clear that they're all tied together by a common thread of fear and the unknown. Whether it's the creepy atmosphere of an old basement or the sense of vulnerability that comes with being trapped in a confined space, these stories tap into our deepest fears and leave us questioning what's real and what's just our imagination. Thanks for watching, and if you're feeling brave, be sure to share your own basement horror stories in the comments below. And if you're looking for more scary tales, be sure to check out my next video, where I'll be diving into even more terrifying stories that are sure to keep you up at night. Join me as I dive into 3 truly horrifying basement stories that just might keep you up at night. Basements have always had a certain allure to them, don't they? They're a place where our darkest fears and anxieties come to life. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today, 3 spine-tingling basement stories that will stay with you long after this video ends. Imagine being alone in a dark, damp basement with no escape. The air is thick with the smell of mildew and decay, and every creak of the wooden floorboards makes you jump out of your skin. It's a place where our deepest fears of isolation and confinement come to life. And then, there's the unknown, the unexplained noises, the flickering lights, and the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Basements have a way of playing on our deepest psychological fears, and that's what makes them so terrifying. But what is it about basements that triggers this sense of dread? Is it the fact that they're often hidden from view, a secret world beneath our feet? Or is it the feeling of being trapped, with no easy way to escape? Whatever the reason, one thing's for sure, basements have a way of getting under our skin and staying there. So, with that said, let's dive into our first story, which takes us to a small town in the Midwest. It was a typical suburban home, with a basement that was perfect for a family of 4. Or so they thought. In the first story, we have a family who moves into a new home, only to discover that the basement is haunted by a malevolent spirit. The story builds in suspense as the family tries to uncover the source of the haunting, with a terrifying twist at the end that will leave you breathless. Next, we have a tale of a group of friends who decide to explore an abandoned basement, only to find themselves trapped by a mysterious entity. And finally, we have the story of a young girl who is forced to confront her darkest fears when she's left alone in a creepy basement. The third story is perhaps the most terrifying of all, with a twist that will leave you on the edge of your seat. It's about a family who moves into a new home, only to discover that the basement has a mind of its own. Doors slam shut on their own, and the family begins to experience strange and terrifying occurrences that threaten to tear them apart. But the most shocking moment comes when they discover the source of the haunting, a revelation that will leave you speechless. The revelation is so terrifying that it will stay with you long after the video ends. It's a reminder that basements can be a place of horrors, where our deepest fears come to life. And it's a testament to the power of fear, which can creep into our minds and take hold in the most unexpected ways. Today, we've explored 3 spine-tingling basement stories that will surely haunt your dreams. From the malevolent spirits to the mysterious entities, each story has shown us just how terrifying basements can be. So, the next time you're alone in a dark, damp basement, remember, you're not alone. If you've got a basement story of your own, be sure to share it with us in the comments below. And if you're looking for more spine-chilling content, be sure to check out our other video on the most haunted places in the world. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. Join me as I challenge myself to tell you 3 disturbing true basement horror stories that will leave you and your friends on the edge of your seats. Basements have always been a hub of paranormal activity, and it's no wonder why. There's something inherently unsettling about being trapped in a damp, dark space with no clear escape route. It's the perfect breeding ground for fear, anxiety, and terror. Fear is a primal instinct that's hardwired into our brains, and basements have a way of tapping into that fear. It's the unknown, the unseen, and the unexplained that really gets to us. We've all been in situations where we've been alone in a basement, and our minds start to wander. What's that creaking sound? Is someone watching me from the shadows? It's this sense of isolation that really gets to us. Being trapped in a confined space with no clear way to get help is a recipe for disaster. And when you add in the element of the unknown, it's a perfect storm of fear. We don't know what's lurking in the corners, what's hiding behind the walls, or what's watching us from the darkest recesses of the basement. And yet, despite our fears, we're drawn to these places. We're curious creatures, and we can't help but explore the unknown. But sometimes, that curiosity can get us into trouble. Sometimes, we stumble upon things that we wish we'd never seen. And sometimes, we're left to face our deepest fears head-on. Let's move on to the third and final story, which might just be the most terrifying of them all. This one takes place in a small town in the Midwest, where a group of friends decided to explore the local abandoned asylum. They'd heard rumors of ghostly apparitions and unexplained noises, but they didn't believe them. That was, until they stumbled upon the basement. The basement was a labyrinth of dark corridors and cramped rooms, with walls that seemed to close in on them from all sides. It was as if the very walls were watching them, waiting for them to make a wrong move. And then, they stumbled upon a door that seemed out of place. It was hidden behind a thick layer of cobwebs, and it looked like it hadn't been opened in years. As they pushed open the door, they were met with a sight that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. It was a room filled with old hospital equipment, but it was the smell that really got to them. It was a pungent, metallic smell that seemed to sear itself into their nostrils. And then, they saw it. A single word, scrawled across the wall in blood-red letters. Mine. The word seemed to reverberate through the air, echoing off the walls and ceiling. It was as if they'd stumbled into something that was meant to remain hidden. Something that was meant to remain secret. And as they turned to leave, they heard the sound that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The sound of footsteps, echoing through the corridors, getting closer and closer. The group tried to run, but it was too late. The door slammed shut behind them, trapping them in the basement. And as they frantically searched for a way out, they realized that they were not alone. They were being watched, and they were being hunted. The smell of metal and blood seemed to wash over them, and they knew that they were in grave danger. In the end, only one of them managed to escape, but the damage was already done. The experience had left them scarred, and they were never the same again. They'd stumbled upon something that was meant to remain hidden, something that was meant to remain secret. And as they looked back on that fateful night, they knew that they'd never forget the terror of being trapped in that basement. All 3 of these stories share a common thread, the unsettling, eerie nature of basements. It's the sense of isolation, the fear of the unknown, and the feeling of being trapped that really gets to us. And as we reflect on these stories, we're left to wonder, what's lurking in the shadows of our own basements? What secrets are waiting to be uncovered? So, what do you think? Have you ever had a terrifying experience in a basement? Share your stories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more spine-chilling tales of horror and the paranormal.